Eostre, the goddess of spring. It may seem far-fetched to claim that there is a connection between the recordings of an 8th century monk, Wiccan religion, and the Easter Bunny, but there is. They are all connected through one mysterious and heavily debated entity, the goddess Eostre, or as she is also known, Ostara. Both her Anglo-Saxon name, Eostre, and her Germanic name, Ostara, clearly bring one's mind to thoughts of Easter. She is hardly mentioned before the 1800s. The first text that mentions her is written by the English monk, Saint Bede, who also happens to be referred to as the father of English history. His text, The Reckoning of Time, was written during the 8th century. In it, he writes about how the Paschal month once was known as Ostromonat, and how that name stemmed from the name of an old, seemingly half-forgotten, spring-like fertility goddess named Eostre, on whose honor feasts were celebrated. She is so little written about that some suggest that she might have been an invention of Bede. I was first introduced to Eostre in 2013. I was still a student at Stockholm University, and money was tight. I had a few part-time jobs to make ends meet. One of those jobs was at a preschool. Easter was nearing, and we were in massive production mode. Both the interior and the yard of a preschool were to be decorated. A staple of Easter decoration in Northern Europe is, of course, the Easter Bunny and its Easter eggs. While coloring a printout of the Easter Bunny and a small chicken, one of the children asked me why the Easter Bunny was handing out eggs. Would it not make more sense if he handed out carrots? One of the other children filled in that carrots doesn't make sense, but it would make much more sense if we celebrated an Easter hen. At that time, I had already finished my bachelor's in ethnology and had a keen interest in tradition and folklore, so naturally, I decided that by the following morning, I would be able to tell the children all about why we celebrate the Easter Bunny. My first findings were quite unsatisfying. I learned that the Easter Bunny stems from a German tradition that is believed to have been adopted into Swedish traditions via immigrants from southern Germany. In German records, the Easter Bunny dates back to the 1600s, first and foremost as a tradition belonging to the southern part of Germany that later spread and became a national phenomenon. While perfectly sensible, this did not make for a good story to come back with and tell expectant children who tend to be looking for something a tad more sensational. So I kept digging, and that is when I came across the enigmatic Eostre. To find a link between Eostre and the Easter Bunny, or Easter hare, as we call it in Sweden, we must first examine Jacob Grimm's 1835 publication of Deutsche Mythologie, and second, Professor and philologist Adolf Holtzmann's 1874 work within the same title. It is Grimm that first ponders over and sets the ground for how we perceive the nature of the goddess, painting her as the divinity of the radiant dawn, of upspringing light, a spectacle that brings joy and blessing to all. When it was Holtman's turn at the helm of the publication, the Easter hare, or bunny, was already known and had started to spread. He therefore speculated that the hare must once have been a bird, and from that a modern legend was born. Now follows my interpretation of the story. I've gathered bits and pieces from many sources, but most of the wording is all my own, and I've taken some creative liberties. Eostre and the bird. Many generations ago, when people still knew of the mysteries of the world, the true forces at work, the essence, spirits, gods and goddesses that stood behind the shifts in season, good fortune, division of skills, protection and fortune. One goddess was perhaps known as the fairest of all, good-natured, gentle, and full of life. Her hair as sunshine, eyes of a summer sky. Her fair skin highlighted in the warm glow of the radiant dawn. With every step she took, the ice would lift and the snow would melt away. Her steady, even breathing stilled the icy storms of winter and made the air start to warm. It was as if with her presence, all life on earth found a will and inspiration to resurrect. One year, upon returning to earth, walking over the snowy ground on bare feet, she came across a shivering bird. It looked nearly frozen and half dead. She walked up to the bird and gently cupped it in her hands. "Should you not have flown south for the winter, little friend?" She spoke with a soft voice, warming the bird enough to speak. "I so wanted to see the beautiful snow, the snow that makes all things glitter and shine. I planned on flying away as soon as I had seen the first snow fall, but then I started feeling so weak, and food was hard to get. All the other birds had already left, and I didn't know what to do. I did try to fly, but my wings are so heavy and cold, and my feathers seem to have frozen together. I do not want to die, but now I know that birds of spring and summer don't belong in the winter." Eostre looked down at the pale, weak-looking bird, and her heart ached. She did so wish to help it. The bird seemed to grow weaker by the second. It hardly even shivered anymore, and was eerily still. An idea started to form. "I can't take you south, but I'll make the winter more endurable for you. I will turn you into a creature that can survive all seasons. A creature that can admire the glittering snow and glistening ice, as well as frolic during spring and summer, see the flowers spring, and hear the beautiful songs of all kinds of birds. I shall turn you into a rabbit or hare. During the colder parts of the year, a thick coat of fur will keep you warm." Eostre gathered her concentration, drawing strength and ability from the nature around her. Her heart filled with love for all things living. The bird felt a strange sensation, like being engulfed in a warm, buzzing bubble. There was a pulling sensation, stretching its small body. Its frozen wings were no more. The bird started to feel very sleepy and started to drift off. Its final thought, before falling into a heavy sleep, "I'm sure life as a rabbit or hare will be very joyful, but surely I'll miss laying eggs. I've always been told my eggs are beautiful. It would be lovely if I could lay them still." And before the bird could finish its thought, it was fast asleep. As the bird slept, Eostre was worried. The spell seemed to have worked. The feathers were now replaced by a luxurious, silky coat of fur. The bird now had long, limber ears and a fluffy tail. She could feel a heartbeat, but it was still faint. She sat down with the creature and softly petted it, singing of the wonders of spring, of the festivities and celebrations to come, of the delicate spring flowers and all of their lovely colors. By the following dawn, the bird woke up to a familiar feeling. It was time to lay an egg. But something felt different. It did not feel quite like itself. First came the memories of winter, of feeling cold and frozen, of being hungry and not being able to fly. Then came the memories of meeting the goddess, being scooped up into the warmth of her hands, and the promise of a new life. Vaguely, the bird remembered soft strokes over its fur and a lovely song. Wait, fur. The bird now had fur and heightened hearing when it flexed its ears. They seemed long and rather large indeed. There was a spell, and the spell had worked. The bird also remembered its last thought before the transformation was complete. It had wished to still be able to lay eggs. Could it be that the wish had been heard? Had the bird spoken out loud? Had Eostre heard it and granted it out of the kindness of her heart? There was that feeling again, more insistent, just like it always had felt. It was time to lay an egg. Instinct took over, and the former bird stopped all of its musings. And just like that, for the first time ever, a hare laid an egg. And not just any egg. It was larger than that of a small bird, and the shell had a pastel sheen to it. It was beautiful, even more so than before. The hare was astonished, and could not take its eyes off the egg until it heard a soft voice speak. "Well, aren't you a marvel, my little friend? Never before have I seen a hare lay an egg. Maybe my spell did not quite take." The bird spoke. "I think I wished for it." The bird silenced, as if thinking. But then, in a steadier voice than before, it said, "Before I fell asleep, I thought to myself that I would deeply miss being able to lay eggs, and that it would be nice if I would be able to do that still. The goddess smiled. Nature is powerful and magical. At its core, it is life. The magic must have felt your heart's desire and wished to grant you the ability that would bring you so much joy. You see, eggs are not only important when it comes to bringing new life into the world. Eggs are not just the birth of a new creature. They help feed and give nourishment to all kinds of creatures, big and small. People all over this world celebrate a shift in season. Many have starved through the winter, and by eating eggs gathered from their pet birds, eggs bring life in a double sense. It saves them from starving. It is a precious gift you have been given. She gave the luxurious fur a gentle stroke as she smiled and let her words sink in. After pondering Eostre's word in silence, the bird took to words again. No other hare has ever been born from an egg. No other creature is like me. It is unlikely that I will have any more children of my own. But you, radiant goddess, brought me back from the brink of death to a new life, and for that I am deeply thankful. I will never forget your kindness, nor take my gift for granted. Every year, as the people prepare for the Easter celebration, I shall lay more eggs and gift them to the people in your honor. As long as I live, I will do this, so that all will remember your goodness, so they will be able to eat themselves full and celebrate life and birth. And the bird did keep true to its word. Every year it would travel in Eostre's footsteps, where spring had sprung and the people prepared their celebrations. The bird, now hare, would hide its eggs. Even as it aged, the eggs kept their pastel sheen. Though the bird did live longer than any other bird or hare had ever lived before, it did not live forever. But luckily enough, before it came to pass, it had many helpers all over the world. Sure, no other hare could lay eggs, but the kindness and joy that it had spread over many years, it had inspired people to keep the tradition alive. In village after village, the children would gather eggs and paint them in beautiful colors. They even started making patterns. Parents made dolls and masks. And like that, the Easter hare lived on. Still to this day, long after the goddess and her kindness seem to have been forgotten, we still carry on the tradition of the furry, long-eared creature that hides beautifully decorated eggs. Though many seem to wonder why. Now you know. Happy Easter.